Welcome to our program on Kardec Radio.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Spiritism and the Media here on Kardec Radio. Today I'd like to bring a topic for us that we find in the book Living Spring by Francisco Cândido Xavier by the Spirit Emmanuel. It is on chapter 84. The number is Instruments. And I'll start talking about the passage that Emmanuel brings from Paul to talk about the instruments, and maybe we will not have time to talk about all this topic today, so we may have to come back next week to finish that. But first, let's see what's the passage that Emmanuel brings to us when he's talking about the instruments. So Emmanuel quotes Paul here. It is in Paul, the first letter to the Corinthians, 14, verse 7. So he says, "How will one know what is being played on the flute or sitar?" So let's go to the letter from the Gospel, from the letter to the Corinthians, to see in what context Paul talks about that. So let's remember, we are talking about instruments, and so Paul says, I have here this version of the Gospel when Paul says, "Even in the case of lifeless things that make sounds, such as the pipe or harp, how will anyone know what tune is being played unless there is a distinction in the notes? Again, if the trumpet does not sound a clear call, who will get ready for battle?" So what we have here in this letter, Paul is talking about at the time about what we knew about the prophets and about people speaking in different languages. It is what we call today mediumship. Today we have mediumship. We know what it is, especially with the knowledge that we receive from Spiritism, from the Spiritist codification. We know how it works. But at that time they didn't know exactly how it worked, and they used to call that to prophesize. So we had the prophets, and many of them, they could speak in language that people do not understand. So it is what Paul is saying here. And then he makes this comparison with instruments. So if we have an instrument, if we play that instrument, but if nobody understands what we do play, what is it for? So when he makes this analogy, when he says here, if the trumpet does not sound a clear call, who will get ready for battle? So we have this message that we want to send, but if we do not send a clear message, how is everybody going to understand that? So I think it's very important that we get this message here, we get this text here, and we can apply that to our study when we talk about media and Spiritism. Why? Because the same way that Paul is saying here that we have these instruments, if we do not use that instrument well to deliver the message, so the message won't be delivered the way it is supposed to be delivered. And what we are here, we are those instruments. We are the one delivering that message when we think about media in Spiritism or Spiritist media. No matter if it is here on YouTube or Facebook, when we have any of these meetings that we have here on Kardec Radio, any meeting here on Kardec Radio, or we have lectures, we have study group, because now during the pandemic we have more and more people, more and more Spiritist centers close around the world. So we have them having meeting online, using many apps and many tools that we have. And also we have many people spreading Spiritist messages on Twitter, on Facebook, and in many other places. So the same applies here. We are these instruments. We are the ones that are bringing these messages and delivering the message. So we are the ones that we may be this instrument that is bringing this clear message or not. So it's up to us. And that's what Emmanuel is going to talk here. So let's read a little more the first part of the text here, what Emmanuel says. He starts saying, Christian workers should all consider themselves to be instruments in the hands of the Divine Master, so that the sublime harmony of the gospel may be irreprehensible for the complete victory of the good. So what is Emmanuel saying here? That all of us, we are those instruments, and we are instruments to the Divine Master. We are instruments to God, to Jesus. And what we know about it, if we go to the Spirit's book, the first question when Kardec asks, what is God? We know that God is the supreme intelligence. So if we are the instruments in God's hand, what does it mean? It means that the person or the one who is playing the instrument, that is God, is perfect. So if the message is not clear, if the message is not good, it's because we instruments are not doing our part the way that we should do. So here is what he's saying here. So that the sublime harmony of the gospel may be irreprehensible for the complete victory of the good. So we may send good messages or not. It is in our hand because we have the source. We have the source that is God. We have the source that is Jesus. We have the source. There are the spirits that helped with the codification. But if we do not deliver that message the way it is our fault. Why and how that can happen? There are many ways that it can happen. It can happen, for example, if I read a text, if I read an answer, a question and answer from the Spirit's book, and I don't understand that very well, I can do my own interpretation of that, and I can deliver that as if it were the truth. But actually, it's only my opinion about that. So I may make a distortion that when I deliver the message, or many times the way I deliver, I may use a kind of language that people will not understand very clear. So I am also bringing some noise to the message. So the message won't be delivered the way it was supposed to be. So that's something that we need to pay attention, especially the ones who are delivering messages, delivering the good news today. And it's so easy for us to do that because we have so many available tools in our hands. So it's important to know that we are all instruments. We are all instruments working to God, working to Jesus. But am I a good instrument? Of course, we are not going to be perfect right now because we know that we are in a planet of trials and expiations. And if we are here going through this transition to a planet of regeneration, it is because we are not perfect beings. And if we are not perfect beings, of course, we are not going to deliver the message the way it was going to be. It should be delivered. Only Jesus did that here. But we should do our best. We should make an effort and try not to bring noise to those messages, or to stick to the message and not to try many times to make it different, or try to put something that is not there. So those are the noises, or those are the ways that we can bring, and many times we may bring, not on purpose, but many times without noticing that, but we can do that and deliver the message not the way it was supposed to be delivered. So it's important for us to have this in our mind, because we are instruments to God, and we need to do our best to be the best instruments that we can be. Of course, we're not going to be the perfect instrument right now. Jesus was, while here on earth, he could deliver all the messages directly from God. We are not in that stage, but we can do the best we can to improve ourselves and try to be a good instruments. So next week I'm going to read the next part of the book, The Living Spring, of this message here, 84 instruments, because there's a lot more for us to talk about. But now, as usually I do, I'm going to read a message from the book Happy Life by Joana de Angelis, channeled by Divaldo Franco. I'm going to open it randomly. So we have here number 113. Never lose hope. Trust always, come what may. If all conspires against you and failure has you at the brink of despair, continue to expect divine aid even so. The only thing that happens to us is what is best for us. The law of God is love. With love, all things are possible. When you think help may arrive too late, hold steady, and you will discover that it did arrive, and just in the right time. People who despair have already lost part of the battle. Thank you so much for your company. May God bless all of us. See you next week.